My girlfriend's sister mocked me while I was performing stand-up, so I went nuclear on her and made her the laughingstock of the night. I'm a successful comic working my way up in the comedy scene in the city I'm living in. I'm dating a woman from here, and she is very supportive of my career as I am with her. She has a 21-year-old little sister who I think is a spoiled sorority brat, but I rarely see her, so I pay her very little attention. Just the other night, I was performing at a comedy club, and my girlfriend came to watch me perform. The night before the show, she informed me that her little sister was coming to the show with some friends. To me, this news was a possible red flag. To give some background, my girlfriend comes from a pretty affluent background where ritzy vacations and luxuries were the norm, whereas I come from quite the opposite. I come from a large family where we had to wear the busted pair of shoes for a little longer until the money was finally scraped together. This difference could be intimidating for many people, but it's never been a big issue. She is very level-headed, works hard, and never looks down on others less fortunate than her or her family. Her sister, on the other hand, is quite the opposite. She goes to a university that is completely paid for, has all the niceties, and lets you know when you don't. She can get rude with people quite easily, especially when dealing with someone working a low-paying job or someone she views as lower in status. I've only acted as a silent observer of her behavior because I've only seen her a handful of times, and I, quite frankly, didn't want to deal with her. When my girlfriend told me she was coming to watch me perform, I grew pretty alarmed. The people that I work with are a pretty working-class group of people. They deal with hard truths and can laugh when they are made fun of. Whenever my girlfriend's sister gets put in similar situations, she does not have the same reaction. She handles it just about as well as Vince Wilfork finding out the buffet closed. I also went with her and my girlfriend to a small concert at a bar, and she was rude and disrespectful to the performers the whole time. I told my girlfriend my concerns about her sister coming. She wouldn't enjoy herself, make a scene, or interrupt another comic's set, the ultimate sin. My girlfriend said it wouldn't be a problem. I buckled and said she could come, but I would not be held liable for whatever happened in the club. She agreed, and that was until the next day. We met the sisters and friends beforehand and went to the club. The first comic was a lady I know, and she was spot on that night. She's by no means a pretty woman, so the girls started making sly comments to each other about it until I told them to cut it out, which they did. I then went backstage to the green room, but they were on fairly good behavior from the little bits I saw and heard. Then my set happened. My first 6 or 7 minutes started well. The crowd was great, and I felt in the zone. I then started talking about North Face being tacky, which proved to be the catalyst for the sister and her friends. They started talking loudly in the back, and I told them to stop. I asked my girlfriend to corral them in and provide some silent reinforcements. Those reinforcements never came. About 2 minutes later, I was working through a piece about being hairy, to which the sister commented. At this point, I noticed she and her friends had put down quite a few drinky poos, so basically, I started making fun of them being sloppy drunks. This shut them up for a little bit. I then had a piece about my mom, to which the little sister commented loudly about my mom being a slut. She threw the third pitch, and I choked up on the bat and began to swing away like Joaquin Phoenix in a room full of Marvin the Martians. I called her out for being a petulant rich girl, made fun of her appearance, and ended up calling her a whole drunkula. The crowd was really into it, so I was eventually able to cut off the set with some grace, but I was livid. When the crowd left, and the lights went up, the sister approached me and started getting in my face. I walked back into the green room and asked the bouncer to take care of it, and she eventually left with her friends. As I saw my girlfriend afterward, she seemed a little upset. I told her that I was furious that she didn't help me out with controlling her sister. She asked why I was so upset whenever the set went so well. I told her that even though that set went well, if a heckler catches me on a night when I'm not at my game, it F's my entire performance. We eventually cut the conversation and drove home. The next day, my girlfriend's sister left a message for my girlfriend in tears about how the night went. She was upset at the things I said and wanted an apology. I told my girlfriend that would not happen, and I deserved an apology. Even though my sister doesn't view what I do as a job, that is my livelihood. If I pulled a similarly disruptive stunt in someone else's place of work, I would most likely be arrested. My girlfriend did not take to this well and hasn't talked to me for the last 2 days besides small talk at dinner. Update: on Monday, I was returning to my apartment after doing a spot for a radio station. As I walked back in, I saw that my girlfriend's dad was there and waiting to talk with me. He had stopped by to say hello to my girlfriend, but his real reason was to talk to me. He's normally a pretty even-keeled guy, but he was miffed that day. He wanted to talk with me about what went down at the comedy club the previous week. We sat in the dining room, and I could tell this discussion would be long. My girlfriend's sister told him about the show, and he was justifiably upset that I called his daughter a cunt. I stayed cool and told him I wasn't intentionally saying it to hurt his daughter's feelings. I was simply trying to regain control of my show and the audience. He kept talking about how awful that was, and it sounded like he didn't get the whole story from his daughter. I asked him if I could give my side of the story just so he had some frame of reference, to which he let me. After my initial concerns, I told him about her repeatedly interrupting and heckling me. I said I had gotten carried away with my choice of words, but I had to do that to keep the crowd. I didn't pose this as an excuse, just where I was coming from. He wasn't as upset, but he still was angry. He started hounding me about my line of work and what kind of job makes you call people that. Now, I think this line of questions stemmed from some deep negative feelings about my career as a comic. We ventured onto that topic fairly soon. I still don't think my girlfriend's dad thinks highly of my career, but I feel like that was the best face-to-face conversation we've had, and he at least now knows that I work hard and am passionate about my career. He wasn't completely alleviated, but that's alright. I can work on that after all this. After this, my girlfriend and I got to talk about the evening at the comedy club. I said that I was sorry for going so nuclear on her sister. She said that she wasn't mad about this or even the use of the word a-hole, but the negative comments I made about her sister being a rich girl. She wanted to know if I felt the same way about her. I told her that while I seem to have an inferiority complex regarding people from wealthy backgrounds, I view her as the woman I love, not Cruella de Vil. I also apologized if my comments made her feel undervalued. That was not my intent. She asked me about my upbringing, and I told her more details. She asked me if I thought about counseling to work through some of these issues, and I said that I'd be down for that. I'm scheduled for a few appointments in the upcoming weeks. If I can get the counselor to laugh, that's a win for me. She apologized for not getting her sister to be quiet during the set. She said the whole thing seemed like a nightmare, and she froze up when her sister started yelling. I told her that I accepted her apology and offered to meet with her sister soon to go over the events of the evening. She seemed happy about that, and will meet her sister over lunch this weekend. So far, many of these issues are slowly but surely getting resolved through solid communication.